And when I opened my practice several years ago and expanded it, I found that the people who were coming to me for dream work and transpersonal therapy were a lot of alternative healers, intuitives, people either developing their intuition or wanting to get it under control, and professional intuitives, and artists. And it's like, oh, that's who I'm working with. This is cool.
This is Therapist Clubhouse, a podcast for private practice entrepreneurs. I'm Annie Schusler. This week, I'm talking to Renee Beck, a private practice entrepreneur in Oakland, California. Listen as we dive into how she built a private practice providing dream work and transpersonal psychology. Welcome, Renee. Thank you so much for being here today.
It's my pleasure, Annie.
So I want to talk about one thing I want to start off with. This was the first thing that drew me to you and made me know I wanted to talk to you. Mm-hmm. Some therapists are really shy and hesitant about putting out their more alternative work and letting people know about it. And maybe they'll hide it on their website or they won't talk about it very much. And they put maybe their more traditional work front and center. Mm-hmm. And I noticed that for you, it's the opposite. Your tagline is dream work and transpersonal therapy for alternative healers and artists. Mm-hmm. So I'm wondering for you, has it always been front and center?
Most of it, because dreams and myth and metaphor and nature and spirituality were the core of my life for as long as I can remember. Mm. And learning about them as I grew was great, and finding out about archetypes, because I was always into symbols, and exploring different symbolic methods and different ritual methods. I have a book on the art of ritual that I wrote with a friend. Mm. And so that's always been part of my life. Mm. And I was a body worker for a while, and I studied science too. But as a body worker, I did deep tissue work and energy work. Mm-hmm. And clients were having catharses on the table. And I knew what to do physically and energetically, but I had no idea what to do psychologically. Well, I had some, but so I started grad school. Wow. And I started in a more traditional program, and it's like, no. And then JFK had a transpersonal program. So I went there, and we had to do, transpersonal was new. So we had to do the MA in clinical psych too, which was a great combo. Hmm. So I've always done dream work. That's been my main thing. But I worked at a little nonprofit high school based in the free school movement. Yes. For a long time, and had a very small private practice. And then several years ago.
And I want to note, I noticed that on your website that it was Holden High School, right? Mm-hmm. And I was looking at it and getting more and more interested, and then realizing it's too far away for either of my kids to go to, but yeah. It looked really amazing. And did you find while you were there that you wanted to be a therapist, or were you already a therapist when you were working there?
I started out in my practicum when I was in school. Mm. That's where I started. And I didn't leave for 33 and a half years.
It's a little while.
Yeah.
So tell me about the practice that you've now built. Who do you work with, and what kind of work are you doing the most?
The most of the work that I'm doing is dream work. Mm-hmm. If not dream work, more metaphorical and symbolic. I work with alternative healers, including people who do plant medicine. And I do help people do integration after those experiences as well. And I also include, if people are interested, therapeutic tarot. Mm-hmm. And that's the one thing I did not put on my website for a year because but I've been doing tarot since I was 14, so that's way longer than I've been a therapist. Uh-huh. And it's not, fortune telling. It's kind of like other therapists use images, mm-hmm. and people talk about the stories in them, and it's like that, except there's some synchronicity thrown in terms of how the cards relate to each other.
And so I think the fear that a lot of therapists have is if I put out there the stuff that some people is going to think is weird, mm-hmm. I'm going to repel a lot of clients. And I always think, well, maybe, but you're also hiding your gifts from the people who really need them. What have you found to be true?
I've found I get my ideal clients.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. And did you know right away that your ideal clients were going to be alternative healers themselves, or did that
No.
start showing up?
Yeah, when I started way back, after I got my license, I just had a small practice with like one or two people because I was working at the school, and there were women who had early sexual abuse, and that's been a lot of people that I've worked with, as well as teenagers of all kinds. And when I opened my practice several years ago and expanded it, I found that the people who were coming to me for dream work and transpersonal therapy were a lot of alternative healers, intuitives, people either developing their intuition or wanting to get it under control, and professional intuitives, and artists. And it's like, oh, that's who I'm working with. This is cool.
Yeah. And so then you named it.
Then I named it. I added that to dream work and transpersonal therapy.
Cool. And so some of the stuff that I found on your website was personalized rituals. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I think there are fewer people in practicing religions these days. Mm-hmm. And we really need symbol in our lives. We need a way to, formally, even it's very casually formally, get in touch with the sacred and that which is bigger than just our personalities and our relationships and our culture. Mm-hmm. And ritual has been a human way to do that for as long as we've got recorded history, So I started out, I always did ritual myself, and I started out getting a minister's license and marrying people. So it's working to create rituals that are personally meaningful to people. And it's using archetypal symbols, but usually that are personalized. People come from different traditions, so there's a way of combining the different traditional rituals into one. Or just creating a place that is really sacred and that really honors what's going on.
And is it always unions that you're doing when you're doing the personalized rituals, or other stuff too?
There's mergings, there's endings, there's beginnings, cyclical events, like seasonal, and particularly the winter solstice, I think. Every culture, marking that time of, we're in the darkest part of the year and the darkest part of ourselves. And for a lot of human life, we didn't know if we were going to get that far. Did we have enough food to make it to that point and then to get through to spring? And that echoes in terms of us internally, So cultures have light festivals then. The return of the light is coming back. So it's a time to release all the shadow stuff that's come up and to bring in more light, to let your own inner light shine. And so creating different ways for people to do that.
Great. And do you usually do that with people who you're already working with in other ways, or do people come to you just for ritual?
It's just for ritual too. But I incorporate it into therapy if people are interested in helping them develop a ritual that they can do. Also for, I think, especially if someone is grieving, and one thing we have rituals for getting married, but we have no rituals for divorce.
Yeah.
Either together or singly. And it's a big ending, and it really, and if you started it with a ritual, ending it with a ritual is kind of appropriate.
How long has it been since you left the school and have been in your expanded private practice?
It'll be 4 years this summer.
Okay.
And I started expanding my practice a couple of years before that and cut down on my hours at school. So I built gradually.
Okay, great. And what has that experience taught you? The experience of, expanding your business?
Well, the things I had to let go of were the fact that I was not selling myself. I was selling my services. I was letting people know about my services, how I could help them, as opposed to selling myself. I found I had to let go of the fact that you're not supposed to make money as a healer, right?
Yeah, yeah. How did you do that?
That was tough. It's tough every time I raise my rates, but it's easier and easier. And I raise them every year because the cost of living goes up every year.
Yeah, it does.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's plenty to let go of. There's the healers aren't supposed to make money. There's the fact that counseling is not as valued as medicine. There's women aren't supposed to make money in our culture.
Yeah. That's interesting, Renee. I kind of realized a number of years ago that I had an unspoken, unconscious promise that I had made years ago, like when I was probably in my very late teens, early 20s. I had made an unconscious promise to not make more than I needed, like to just make what I needed. And I had to make that conscious and realize that I was living to that pact before I could change it. So yeah, I think there are these huge things to let go of, like you're talking about. And then each person has their own money story that adds even more to it. Yeah.
And then there's celebrating the fact that we let those things go.
Yeah.
And the fact that we can do good things with our money.
Yeah. So letting go of that myth that money is evil, or that, money changes people, or that, money is not for good.
Right. And the actual phrase, I believe, is the love of money is the root of all evil.
Okay. Yeah.
So, so that's just our cultural translation is money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And it's not, it's greed.
Oh, interesting. How are your clients finding you?
Word of mouth at my website.
And how do you think they find your website?
That was one of the hardest things with building my practice, because I didn't have any money to hire anybody. And I knew I had to have a website. And so a friend set me up on WordPress with one page and said, everything you need to know is online. Go. Here's 2 pages on SEO. And I was like, And before that, I know how to use Word and find Keith Richards videos on YouTube and search. I know how to do searches, which is good because I did a lot of them to find out what I was doing. I didn't even know what to look up. So, tech Neanderthal, that's how I think of myself. But we went to grad school. We passed a state exam. We can learn.
Yeah.
It is a totally different, it's building totally new neural channels. Because it's, but once you build them, they're there.
Yeah.
It's easier.
It gets easier and easier. Yeah. Okay. So you did some of your own SEO, and it looks also like you just built content over time and kept adding and adding. Yeah. And then I'm imagining that your website works a lot as some people find you directly there, but then also it works really well with the word of mouth, because as soon as someone hears about you and they go look you up, it's going to be aligned. Like they're going to see, oh yeah, that sounds like the Renee who was described to me, instead of showing up at your website and seeing who's this, Yeah. Like if you had really watered everything down and tried to seem more conservative, whatever that means, then some of those people probably wouldn't have, converted into being clients. Yeah.
And I network a lot too. I mostly network online, which is how we met. And I do I ask therapists out for tea that are local, because I'm an introvert and I hate big meetings.
Yeah, me too.
So, but one-on-one is great. I want to find out what people do, what they love about their work.
Yeah.
So we can support each other. So finding people in complementary niches.
And how do you do your online networking? Where are you meeting people?
I am in a bunch of therapist groups on Facebook. I started out networking on LinkedIn because that was the only social media platform I knew of, you know, and I tried a couple of others, but Facebook, most of my friends were on there,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so, well, if I'm going to do social media, I might as well be able to see my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's some great groups. So.
And then in the groups, would you start commenting on people's posts, or how is it that you would make an introduction?
Yeah, I would try to be helpful.
Mm-hmm.
I do try to be helpful.
Mm-hmm. I've noticed that about you. We're on at least one group together, Therapists in Private Practice, NOMS group. And yeah, I just noticed that you pop in with helpful answers, helpful ideas.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, you know, we do like to help. That's why we chose this profession.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think sometimes, though, people can forget when they get on social media, they can forget their usual human skills, you know, and they get into this mode of like, I'm here to sell myself, or I'm here to do this particular task. And so I like what you're saying, that you just are showing up as yourself. You're showing up as yourself on your website, on social media, being you, being helpful. And then you start seeing people you have an affinity for and making connections with them.
Yeah. And it amazed me. I mean, I have friends. I have people that I really love and care about that I have never physically met. I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, me too. It's so interesting. Over the last couple of years, that's happened for me. And I was talking to my family about it recently and saying like, well, my work is in this little box. It's in my little computer box. And I have friends in there and clients in there. So it's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love working online. It's great.
Do you do video sessions or? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been great because, the work I do it's a small niche, and people will travel, but I've worked with clients and supervisees. I love doing supervision in all different parts of the state, and particularly around transpersonal supervision, because there aren't that many folks, at least, who advertise as transpersonal.
Yeah. Yeah. So you do one-on-one work and you do supervision. Are those your main services?
I do consultation as well. So I help people with countertransference, because I love working the counter. I mean, I think that's such a rich part of therapy, being able to feather out what's mine from what's the client's, and then figure out what's going on energetically in the room and how that can be used to further the therapy. I mean, I don't do therapy with my supervisees. They go to their own therapist. But we work to identify the issue enough to be able to use it for the client's good.
Yeah.
And so consultation around that, around energy work, both what I was just talking about, plus, the container, and depending on people's orientation, spirit, and how that works, and intuition. I mean, developing your intuition, or if something weird is happening with your intuition, or you haven't had intuition, you didn't think, but with this one client, it seems you do, so how do you moderate that? And supervision, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is being an intuitive similar to being an empath, or are they different things?
Those usually overlap, though some people may not be empaths who are intuitives. But I think a lot of empaths are intuitives, but not necessarily the other way. But I think there's a lot of overlap. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And what's your balance in your life and your business? How do you find a balance between being a business owner and a person?
I think Kelly and Miranda said, you build your business around your life, right? And it's like, yes, that's why we're in private practice. And if that doesn't work, then it isn't working. So I set my schedule. I don't drive in rush hour. So I'm in the office a couple of days a week, midday. I see a couple of clients, a couple of evenings a week, and I'm online Friday. So I have 3 days a week that are mine. And I have time to be in the garden and to write and to see friends. And even on my Fridays online, I still can go in the garden because I'm working from home.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the cat's here. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool. And so how many sessions do you like to have in a week? What's your optimal number?
18 to 20.
Mm-hmm.
And well, I'd like 15, but cancellations, people finish, all that stuff. So people get sick.
Mm-hmm.
So 18 to 20. And then I'm working on in a couple more years when the mortgage is paid off, going down to 10 and then seeing, and then figuring it out from there.
That's a really cool thing about our careers. This kind of business is that we can really expand and contract whenever we want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what are you charging right now?
Supervision is $110 an hour and consultation is $200 an hour. Mm-hmm. And therapy, I do 45 and 60-minute sessions, and those are $175 and $200.
Mm-hmm. And I know you change your fees every year. How are you feeling right now about your fee?
Good.
Great.
I'm feeling good.
Yeah. And everybody can't see Renee, but I can. And I can just see the grounded feeling when you talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah. Like you felt your way through it and figured it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And part of that was, let's see, I have a couple of, I have a very low fee slot, 2 of them through Open Path. Mm-hmm. And I also do some supervision for a grad school in the area. And that's well below my fees. So I do want to help, and I do want people who can't afford my full fees to be able to work with me. Mm-hmm. But we are in the San Francisco Bay Area, and there's only so much that I can do.
Right. You got to take care of yourself too.
Right. And I am a mentor through San Francisco Camped. I'm through East Bay Camped.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. But so one of the things that was good was deciding on that my supervision fee was going to be half of my full fee, basically, because I paid for supervision the whole time, and my supervisor gave me a deal, and it's hard. It's hard to pay for soup.
Yeah.
But one thing that's really cool is a lot of the supervisees I work with are in private practice model agencies, right? So it's a non-profitable charitable organization, but people are building, besides being listed on the organization's site, they're building their own practices. So by the time that they get licensed, they're going to have a full practice, and it's really fun helping them do that.
Right. And finding their way of working, finding what's unique about them and putting it out there the way you've put it out there. Mm-hmm. That's a great model. Has there ever been a scary moment or a low moment in your business?
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a graphic, the entrepreneurial roller coaster, where it's, oh boy, oh no, oh, this is exciting. Oh my God, I'm going bankrupt, right? It's like, no, I can do this, right? And it just goes up, up and down and up and down. I mean, that happens for any entrepreneur unless they've got somebody supporting them or a trust fund. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
How do you get through the dip times, the oh no times?
I have some savings, which I have called on a few times, and I market like crazy.
So you use those downtimes to market?
Yes.
Yeah. And what do you do when you're marketing?
I'm writing or adding something to my website. I'm making calls to people to network. I'm putting together classes or trainings, right? Yeah. I'm posting more on social media.
That's great. And I love how you're talking about creating classes or trainings, because that's something you're adding to your practice, but it's also just reminding people about you. Yeah. And it can be, for some folks, it can be a lot easier to quote unquote sell a training or a workshop or something like that than themselves. Although, as you said, we're never really selling ourselves. We're selling the process and the outcomes of the work that we're doing. Yeah. And how do you get through it emotionally when you're in one of those downtimes?
Let's see, I'm a 9, so I do a lot of puzzles. Right? I need to go away sometimes, and I can do puzzles or going out in the garden. So in the winter, it's hard because there's not going out. Seeing friends, just knowing it's fear and it's not going to kill me.
Mm-hmm. Great.
And and watching funny shows, laughing. What do you do?
What do I do if things are feeling low? The lowest time I ever had, and I do something similar to this every time things are low, but this was like, really bringing it. The lowest time I had, I went to all of my friends, especially the ones who I knew were kind of business positive.
Mm-hmm.
And I told them I was having a hard time and I asked for their advice.
Cool.
And so that was vulnerable. And that was really, especially because that was early in my private practice.
Mm-hmm.
But just sharing it, talking about it, and getting people's love and support was really helpful. And then I pretty much always use my anxiety to take action. So for better or worse, I really like taking action when I'm anxious. Yeah. So just like you, I marketed. Mm-hmm. I wrote for my website. I did networking, and I'm trying to remember at that time what I thought of as marketing, but I know I did those things. Mm-hmm. And, and then things started turning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've found clients come in waves.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I can, like during a dry spell, I can go weeks without a phone call. And then I'll get like 5 phone calls, 10 phone calls in 2 days.
Yeah.
Oh, another thing I do is, I do it every day. I have a spiritual practice that I do. It's a little one. But when I need clients too, I will basically tune up and, ask Spirit to like send out a beacon to let people know I'm here. And so I imagine a beacon going around and shining so people can see me wherever they are.
Oh, how cool.
And people who need me. Yeah.
And if you could go back and time travel to, let's say, 6 years ago when you were starting your private practice, what would you tell the Renee of that time?
I'll tell you what I told me then.
Okay.
You can always get a job at Kaiser. And I think that's also been, no offense to Kaiser, but it's a much different model than I would choose to do. Yeah. But I'm clinically proficient to work there. Yeah, but I think that's also helped me. I don't want to work at Kaiser. I want to build my practice.
To remind you of what you really wanted. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Good.
And what I tell beginning therapists is follow your passion. Do the work that feeds your soul. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to get you clients. That's what's going to be the most fulfilling. And you're going to do your best work when you're doing the stuff you love to do.
That's excellent. You've probably saved all of those people so much wasted time.
I hope so.
Yeah. Anything else that you want to make sure that you leave people with?
Just, follow your heart, and you're not selling yourself, you're selling your services. And it doesn't matter if you don't know tech. You can figure it out, or you can hire somebody to do it for you. Mm-hmm. But I think therapists do their own best SEO because nobody knows our practices like we do.
And nobody knows our right fit clients quite as intricately as we do.
Right.
Yeah. Such a good point.
And you can do this.
Mm-hmm. All right. I liked what you said earlier about, you got through grad school. You can do this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's the best place for therapists to find you, throw compliments at you, grab your wisdom?
Well, my website is reneebeckmft.com. And I also have a Facebook page, which is probably the best way to contact me or call me up.
Excellent. Thank you so much for
my pleasure. It's great talking with you.
Thanks for listening to Therapist Clubhouse. Hey, I am excited to tell you about this. I'm going to be spending 3 days in August with 10 wonderful therapists, and I hope one of them is you. So folks have been asking me over the years for 2 different things. Well, more than that, but here's 2 things. You've asked me for an opportunity to work with me in person. And for a long time, I've only been working with people online. You've also asked me for a more concentrated, fast-track way to work through the Superpower Method. And in case you don't know, the Superpower Method for therapists is my program to help you build your unique business by leveraging your strengths. And it's usually a 3-month program, which works great for a lot of people. But some of you have been wanting to work through it more quickly. So in August, I am offering Superpower Intensive. This is going to be in person in the Bay Area for 3 days from Friday, August 24th through Sunday, August 25th. In the Bay Area, I'm working with 10 therapists in a cozy, comfortable environment. We're going to do the work together in real time. We're going to take 3 days to discover, grow, and transform your business. If you think this might be right for you, please go ahead and apply right now. As I'm recording this, half the spots are already filled with really cool people. So go over to coachingwithannie.com/intensive to learn more and apply. I will see you next week.